I'm Peggy Scott Laborde, and welcome to Steppin Out, spotlighting the New Orleans area's arts and entertainment scene. Seated at our table tonight with giggles, I guess, Poppy Tucker, host of the weekly program Louisiana Eats on WWNO Radio. Hi.
Hey, Peg.
Good to see you. Hello. Historian Sally Asher, who will be giving a talk on the history of Prohibition and its repeal, thank goodness,
yes.
80 years later, and we'll be hearing from her about that in a special event. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Hello. Alan Smason, who is our theater critic and editor of the online Crescent City Jewish News. Hey, Alan.
Hi there.
And Harry Mayronne Jr., yay! Pianist and puppeteer, and featured in the upcoming Solo Mania Festival we'll be talking about too. Hey, Harry.
Hey,
hello.
good to be back.
But of course, yes indeed, but of course always time for Poppy.
Well, we really know how to celebrate in New Orleans, don't we? And Dickie Brennan has something big to celebrate. Can you believe it's the 15th anniversary of the opening of the steakhouse? I can't believe it's been that long. Yeah. So they're going to celebrate down there through the entire month of November with some really great specials. Friday lunch. How can you not love Friday lunch? Well, on Fridays at the steakhouse, 2-course lunch for $15. Appetizer will include either a wedge salad, seafood gumbo, or crispy onion rings. And then check out the entrees. Broiled twin fillets served with mashed potatoes, asparagus, and a bourbon peppercorn cream sauce. Fried oyster McElhenney salad with hearts of romaine, shaved onions, blue cheese, Creole buttermilk crouton, yum. Of course, there's a Tabasco chipotle dressing on top. That's why it's McElhenney. And then dinner continues with the celebration because they're reviving some of their favorite old dishes. And so you're going to have corn-fried oysters again. You're going to have, oh, my favorite.
That's an oldie but goodie.
The 14-ounce veal chop bordelaise. Oh, I could eat that right now. And for lunch or dinner, you can get a glass of Moet and Chandon for $15. And there's also a 15-year whiskey flight featuring 2 scotches and an Irish whiskey. So head on down to the steakhouse and help Dickie celebrate with all that fun. And then some uptown food news. You know, it wasn't too long ago that the folks who own Cristiano's restaurant in Homa, which is very popular down there, bought Dick and Jenny's. And the good thing is that many of the things that you've always loved are still there because the chefs, the Cristiano chef, Lindsay Mason, and Dick and Jenny's chef, Stacy Hall, are working together there. And so you're going to see old favorites like fried green tomatoes, saffron steamed mussels, bouillabaisse, tiramisu for dessert. But something brand new that just started last weekend is brunch every Saturday and Sunday. They've never done that before. And that is from 10 a.m. until 3 p.m. And you can have yummy things like chicken biscuit, eggs Boudreaux, buttermilk fried quail, and waffles. Yum! And then everybody may have done a little howling last night, but save on to a little of that howl for tomorrow night because the Louisiana SPCA is celebrating their howling success, 125 years of the Louisiana SPCA. It's tomorrow night at the Hyatt Regency Hotel Ballroom. That's why I'm the co-chair, because I'm doing it for my girls. And so tickets begin at $125, and it's going to be a really lovely event. You're asked to come dressed as your favorite celebrity. I wonder if people will be there dressed like you, Peg.
Or you.
Or you can wear costumes.
What is the name of your dog?
Oh, let's see. There's Trudy and Prudence and Agatha, ugly British sisters. And the baby was just visiting. She's Ella.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Poppy. And we turn to Sally, who, whenever she comes here, brings with us history that we should not forget and some special events tied into it.
Yes, I have 2 events to talk about. Both are taking place at the Mint. The first one is Saturday, November 2nd. It's the Big Easy Speakeasy, and it's
also
jazz.
Noticed tomorrow night.
It's tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. It's jazz, jail, and Bonnie and Clyde. And audience members can go and see the old jail. They're arresting some very local politicians. Jackie Clarkson will be arrested. You will have to pay money to bail her out. They will have live auction. Our nose is catering, drinks, $55, and it goes from 8 to 11 o'clock. The next thing I'm talking about is I have a lecture on November 14th at the Mint. It's a Thursday night. Doors open at 6 o'clock. We have a free reception from Old New Orleans Rum, which will be serving very strong Prohibition-style rum drinks.
And we're sipping
era.
something tonight, courtesy of them.
Yes.
What is the name of
this
what
is
we're
called
sipping?
Between the Sheets. Between the Sheets.
Okay.
Yes.
And we should point out that we're going to be having the recipe on our WYS website at Steppin Out, and so they can check that out by our calendar. Very good.
And I'm going to have readers, Andrew Ward, Miko, Veronica Russell. It's an interactive lecture. The free reception starts at 6 and the lecture starts at 7 o'clock. There'll be a special performance by Trixie Meeks, the burlesque star.
We're going to be showing some of the our stars that will be performing.
Yes, she is fabulous. And so what I'll be briefly talking about, or informing you all from, is in 1918, Congress passed the Wartime Prohibition Act, which bound the sale prohibited the sale of alcohol, any alcohol containing more than 2.75%. And so, of course, people protested and rioted. And it started the No Beer, No Work movement, where labor unions across the country said that they were going to put down their tools if they could not pick up their beer. And so on Flag Day, 1919, it was actually the first time that 7,000 individuals got a permit to protest legislation in Washington. They marched on Washington. 6 days later, 3,000 people marched in New Orleans in a beer parade that they wanted to retain their beer. And so as the days were leading up to it, everyone was very nervous. And the Times-Picayune used to write about this kind of favorite French Quarter bum, Oyster Bill, who was kind of the resident alcoholic of the quarter. And Oyster Bill's father was Old Bill, who was kind of a renowned lover and fighter who was a teetotaler, who died from an infection on his foot from stepping on a lobster can. And allegedly, Oyster Bill had one beer, and that was it, went downhill. And he got his name Oyster Bill because he would only eat oysters, and all his teeth fell out.
Now, where do you get these accounts? From the local newspapers?
From the newspaper. The Times-Picayune would run articles on him saying he was on the wagon, he was off the wagon. All the politicians knew him. He liked to pass out in the lobby of the Cosmopolitan Hotel. He allegedly had a crush on the Irish coat check girl. And so he was also supposedly the only one who was allowed behind bars, who would go behind and yell at the bartenders to serve him drinks. So he died just a couple days before the Wartime Prohibition Act went into effect. And the Times-Picayune blamed it directly on his demise, saying that if only he had the will to live, he would have remained. And it's also important to note that Oyster Bill was a cat. So he was the only feline souse in the French Quarter. And Andrew Ward is going to be reading an article from July 1st, 1919, from the Times-Picayune. Okay, so we're going to be getting ready for Andrew in just a moment, and he looks great, and we will be visiting with him shortly as we get our cameras all together here. But I know you're a fan of the mascot and other Picayune news and Picayune and such, and so it's fun just to cull through all those. Yeah. All the newspapers of the time, the local, were pretty much anti-prohibition, but my favorite of that era was the Times-Picayune, because they kind of wrote, reminding me of a very well-spoken 4-year-old throwing a temper tantrum. Very, very melodramatic, very upset, very outraged. And now let's hear Andrew Ward.
The Attorney General's ruling permitting the sale of 2.75% beer, while it brought balm to the tortured minds of many, came too late to save Oyster Bill, that notorious Royal Street cat who had the reputation of being the only feline souse in New Orleans. Bill died Saturday night, heartbroken. Those who know him best say it was at the prospect of immediate and bone-dry prohibition. Had the Attorney General's ruling only come Saturday afternoon instead of Monday, it is believed that Bill would still be amongst the living. Whiskey cocktails, to be sure, were his favorite tipple, but Bill certainly enjoyed a good beer as well, mighty well. And the knowledge that beer was still to be available after July 1st, undoubtedly, it is asserted, would have broken the shock and saved his poor furry life. For years, Bill had been an inhabitant of that famous old block on Royal Street between Canal and Iberville, and in the old days he used to be a fine, upstanding specimen of his tribe. Then he took to drink. Bartenders knew and admired Bill for his extraordinary capacity and were amazed even a few weeks ago after an extended spree when this particular feline acrobat took to the top of the water wagon. Then he went back to his old habits and celebrated outrageously for several days after. Then Saturday, news that the strict enforcement of prohibition laws was certain reached New Orleans. Bill took it for granted that the news must always be authentic, said one of his bartender friends. He survived only a few moments afterwards. To Oyster Bill.
To Oyster Bill. Thank you, Andrew Ward. To Oyster Bill. All right, here we go. Very good. Cheers, cheers in between the sheets. And now we turn for something completely different. Mr. Harry Mayronne, a very old friend, I'm delighted to say, too, and very talented. So you've got some stuff coming up with Solomania, and you have, talk about great show and tell.
Well, I made my second trip to Berlin,
and you
of course.
Just come back,
I
that's
played
right.
with Nina Hagen again, so I'll be talking about...
Chanteuse.
Well, she is known as the mother of punk.
Okay.
And now, but she's also into the classics, Bertolt Brecht, and we performed at the... I had a marionette of Bertolt Brecht, which I had last time. But after that...
And you've got...
This marionette is a French... he's an icon in
Okay,
France.
we'll get to him shortly.
Okay,
Yes.
we'll wait.
Yeah.
Okay, so Berlin. Yeah, so Nina told me a really funny story about being in New Orleans. It was about the humidity. She said, I was in my hotel, and I took a shower. I took my towel, and I dried myself. And I said, something's wrong with this towel. It doesn't work. I'm still wet. She wasn't impressed with the humidity. But she was, her mother, Eva Maria Hagen, who is known as the Brigitte Bardot.
And we've got photos, I know, we'll
be
showing of them.
Her mother was known as the Brigitte Bardot of the DDR. She was in the performance. She doing the Brecht stuff. And Nina reminded me a bit of Becky Allen. She threw confetti occasionally during the performance. Speaking of, I have Becky Allen right here.
Oh, okay. Let's. Okay. Oh,
a lady hard, darling. So Becky will probably make an appearance in my show, because from Bufas to Berlin, my show is really about observations I've made about connections between these different cities. We spoke earlier about many of the cities I visited flooded earlier, and I was shown in Magdeburg, Germany, which I traveled to see a puppet theater and museum, had just had the river spill over, and I was looking, somebody's showing me flood lines. So
yeah, very
and then
familiar.
Prague, a puppet town I visited, which brought back childhood memory of beads. That's where I remember Czechoslovakian beads.
We all knew how to spell it.
Like we have, in the French Quarter, we have T-shirts. In Prague, they have marionettes and beads. So I was quite at home there.
Well, tell us about Solomania. Now, in addition to yourself, there are other local actors who are performing. I know that Casey Groves is performing.
Casey Groves is one. And I think we have a picture.
Yes.
And
who
another
performs
one.
As Father Silas and many other people, too.
Brad McIntyre. I think we have in a show called Chop. My friend Bremner was actually in Paris with his wife Lisa, and he came to see the show. And there's me with the Bertolt Brecht marionette, who will be in my show coming up, along with some others. I went to Paris after, where I visited the home of this gentleman, Boris Vian, who's a French writer who played and promoted New Orleans jazz in the...
and show him. This is wonderful. Okay.
Yes, you have him.
Now, did you purchased him, or did you make him?
No, I built him.
You built him.
I built all of them.
That's incredible. Here we go. Oh, great. Look at that wonderful shot. Yeah.
Yeah, so he was a writer he's known as a writer, and he wrote a beautiful anti-war song, La Deserteur, that I do. But he promoted New Orleans music during the 40s in Paris, and it was a really fascinating...
Now, how long does it take to construct a gentleman like that?
About a week.
A week?
A week.
Well, I would say nonstop, though.
Although he took longer. It depends on how long the sculpting process. I got in, this man I didn't really know, but I got inside his soul.
And what is he made of?
He's made of plastic wood. I do a clay head, plaster of Paris mold, and these has the properties of wood. It's an old style of, it's considered dangerous and lethal. You have to wear a mask and open the windows. But it's a real classic way of making marionettes.
And you're performing next Friday?
Next Friday and Saturday, the 8th and 9th.
Very good.
Along with Bremner and Veronica Russell also. And in fact, I have if you look for this will be out in a lot of
right.
businesses.
A lot of the businesses.
This is
okay.
the
and we have some information
schedule.
that we're going to be showing too, just generally. This is, how many years have they been doing Solomania?
This is the premiere of
This is the
Solomania.
premiere. Okay,
Yes.
you know, I'm getting confused with Fringe.
No,
so-
Fringe is coming up.
Yes,
after.
okay. But what a good idea. What a good idea
yes,
to
and
do
it's
this.
great because everybody's shows are different. I'm going to be on a double bill with Pendor Gastelum, who is the mudlark who got me back into puppetry last year with the Giant Puppet Festival. So she has a show called The City That Care Forgot. Mine is From Buffus to Berlin. And then there's a host of others that you can see at solomaniafest.com is the website.
All right, Harry. Thank you. It's always great to have you. And you are kind enough that you're going to be playing Mac the Knife for us as we close out our program tonight.
Yes.
Huh? We look forward to it. Thank you. And Alan, that man about town.
Well, thank you for that. That would be, I guess, Whitler's brother, huh? I guess. Is that right? Those of us who remember the 1950 movie that starred Jimmy Stewart as Elwood P. Dowd might be surprised to learn, yes, it was indeed Harvey, and it was a play first written by Mary Chase. And the play deals with a man of questionable sobriety, or perhaps mental instability, whose best friend in life is Harvey. Harvey is an invisible 6'3.5" rabbit, a puka as he calls himself, based on a mischievous character culled from Celtic mythology. And the leading role of Elwood is none other than the Prince of New Orleans comedy, our very own Ricky Graham. And he's being directed by one of his heirs apparent, Gary Rucker. Harvey will be opening at the Rivertown Theaters as the second major presentation this year following their successful production of 42nd Street. Aside from Graham, the cast also stars Butch Care as Dr. Chumley, Jimmy de Montlezun as the orderly Wilson, Emily Fortunato as Elwood's niece, Helen Blank as his sister, and Shelley Johnson Rucker as Nurse Kelly. And frankly, it's a great cast. I think it has great potential to allow Ricky to shine in a role that may be a little bit confining to him, but should also allow his comic timing genius to come through. Harvey can be seen, as it were, or not seen, at the Rivertown Theaters for Performing Arts in Kenner this weekend and runs until November the 16th. Meanwhile, Loyola University is preparing to take the wraps off a very unusual production of William Shakespeare's The Merchant of Venice. This is a work that's been reimagined as taking place in 1943 during the fascist Italy regime. Sometimes these imaginings can be very effective and add more dimension to the bard's work. We shall see. It runs this weekend and, of course, next Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Performances are at 7:30 each night, and, of course, the matinees on Sundays are at 2 p.m. So we'll look at that. And then across the quadrangle, as it were, Summer Lyric at Tulane University made their final announcements for their season just a couple of weeks ago. The first initial offering that we know about already was Les Miserables. That's going to be kicking things off from the 19th through the 22nd of June. And now the last two productions have been announced, and they are two longtime favorites. The first, of course, is Marvin Hamish's Immortal, a chorus line. That runs from July the 10th through the 13th, and they're going to have some wonderful, excellent voices and dances. I'm sure they should not be missed, but hold on, because also hitting the boards coming up will be a historic restaging of Kander and Ebb's Cabaret.
Oh,
and
wow.
I can imagine this is going to be very similar to the version, not the one that was done originally back in the 60s, but the restaging that was done that starred Alan Cumming, which is, by the way, also being restaged on Broadway. So he's redoing his same role that Joel Grey did originally.
Wow.
He did reprise in the revival, and Alan Cumming will be back on Broadway again in that. Don't forget about getting season subscriptions. I'm sure they would love to hear about interest in that as well. Now, Little Shop of Horrors. Everybody knows about this. This is one of the most famous Alan Menken and Howard Ashman musicals, one of their earlier works. JPAS, Jefferson Performing Arts Society, is going to be presenting this with part of their JPAS Conservatory. This is the younger crew that does some of these productions, and they're going to have a modicum of adult supervision. Philip Benson will be acting as the director. Hopefully a few of these members, like in Nord, will get the acting bug and then go on perhaps to enroll at some of the local colleges, or perhaps will have a career that they'll choose in acting. Some of the fabulous songs you'll have is like Skid Row, You'll Be a Dentist, Somewhere That's Green, Mean Green Mother from Outer Space. All of these should be wonderful, and have the kids really take their turns doing that. And then, of course, Evan Spiegelman is going to be presenting a new production of something called Nocturnes 1 through 3. And that'll be running, I guess, through the Fringe Festival, but it's going to be starting this November, next week, as part of a presentation at the Cosmodrome at 3625 St. Claude Avenue. And Evan and his troupe performers have relocated to New Orleans. They were out-of-towners. They came here after Katrina, and they've done some really inventive things, including Hedwig and the Angry Inch. So that's pretty much it.
So if you wanted to mention the LPO,
yeah, I did want to mention if they have the Tristan Effect tomorrow night. The LPO is doing. It's going to be the Mahalia Jackson Theater of Performing Arts, a multimedia presentation, and it was imagined first by the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, but they're going to have a lecture, if you will, before the presentation with all sorts of opportunities for multimedia, and then they will actually have the performance after intermission. It should be great.
Oh, great! A little bit more accessible.
Wagner,
a little bit more accessible.
I love Wagner.
Yes, Wagner, darling. Thank you. And now it's time for our artist spotlight. Tonight we're featuring From Esplanade to Bayou St. John by Jean Umbenstock, a native New Orleanian. Umbenstock is inspired by the nature of Southeast Louisiana and the Mississippi Delta. She is the first place winner of the 19th annual Poitras Home Art Show and Sale, taking place tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Sunday from noon to 4 p.m. at the Poitras Home, and that's right there at Magazine in Jefferson. Call 897-0535 or visit poitrashome.com for more information. Very worthy cause. And a reminder that you can check out Steppin Out's online calendar at WYES.org. New Orleans Magazine quiz queen Julia Street has a question for us. Last time, Randy Boudreaux gave us the name of the player who made the historic 1959 LSU Halloween touchdown run, and against which team? Billy Cannon, Ole Miss. Now tonight's question for All Saints Day. A former voodoo queen is buried at St. Louis No. 1 Cemetery, and a tomb at Metairie Cemetery is associated with a famous Storyville madam. Well, I know Sally can answer that. Who were they? Send your answers to steppinout@wyes.org. Our prizes: a Louisiana Life magazine subscription, a gift certificate for Vianne's Tea House, offering their culinary and gourmet tea experience, and that's for two, a copy of the book Statuesque New Orleans by Ashley Merlin, a t-shirt. We have tonight's staffer Ashley Richard Morris, and she's also our director, wearing a t-shirt with the message "Edinami Dearest" from our friends at wearablevegetables.com. And now our picks. Harry, do you have a pick? How about a website? Or
HarryMayrone.com, which
yes.
has information about my show From Buffalo to Berlin next Friday and Saturday at the Shadowbox Theater.
Thank you. Poppy.
Next Wednesday, National Eating Healthy Day, and it's all being put on by Ochsner. Go to their website, and there's a long list of restaurants that are participating.
All right, Sally.
November 14th at the Mint, History of Prohibition of New Orleans with Trixie Minks and Old New Orleans Rum, 6 to 8:30.
It sounds like it's going to be so much fun.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
It's very good.
Yeah.
Ellen.
And I'll direct to that. India Jazz Suites. This is a pairing of jazz and also Indian, that is as in the subcontinent of India, Indian dance. They're going to have a documentary screening and several dance workshops. It's going to be taking place entirely at NOCA. So those of you who are interested, we're going to have this information on our website. That's Tuesday, November the 5th through Saturday, November the 9th. And I think the performances are next weekend. And also want to remind everybody that Anthony Bean's Community Theater production of The Mountaintop by Katori Hall will be opening tonight, Friday, and running throughout the remainder of the month until November the 24th. And I know that's going to be wonderful. The last night on earth of Martin Luther King Jr.
All right. And my picks. Tomorrow in Baton Rouge, Susan Larson, Poppy Tooker, Errol Laborde, and I will be participating, and many others, in the Louisiana Book Festival. That's in Baton Rouge. Check out their website. Also, check out the Artist Open House at the Mid-City Art Studios. That's at the corner of Toulouse, right near North Alexander. Tomorrow, full of many talented artists. It's a lot of fun to go there. All things Scandinavian can be found at the Norwegian Seamen's Church Festival. That's Saturday and Sunday. Baked goods, other food, and items for Christmas. And they are at 1772 Britannia. It's one of my favorite things. And that's uptown, of course. And this G clay that I'm about to show you, Red Balls on Green, by Sally Heller, and the collage Hover by Douglas Bourgeois. Wow. They are two of dozens of items that will be auctioned off at the 8th annual Art Docs benefit. That's next Thursday, November 7th, at the Art Club on Elysian Fields. Mr. Michelopoulos owns that. You can go to the Art Docs website, and by the way, they help to provide health care services to the uninsured visual artists, writers, and musicians of limited financial means. Visit jonathanferreragallery.com SteppenOut.com for more information about all of that. And then finally, also next Thursday is a fundraiser headed by actor-musician Hugh Laurie at Tipitina's to raise funds to restore Professor Longhair's house, also featuring John Cleary and many others. Next week, we'll be serenaded by members of the Mardi Gras Chorus. Looking forward to that. That's the Mardi Gras Chorus of Greater New Orleans. And we are about to go hear Mr. Harry Mayronne. Harry, just keep playing. Don't stop, darling. Thanks for watching. Good night.